Hello and welcome to Subsplash's Church Management Overview. My name is Chase, and I work on the Client Services team here at Subsplash. Today we're going to be doing an overview of the Church Management platform, including what are the features in Church Management, as well as where to access them. If you have any questions about how to get into these individual features, feel free to check out our Knowledge Center. We have articles based off of what I'll be getting into, but today, as I mentioned, we'll be talking big picture overview about church management. Loading into management, the first page we see is the home page, the top left. On this page, we have a timeline. We'll scroll down where I can see some of the most recent happenings in my church management. So for example, there was a check-in that closed recently. And then also I made some updates to Susan Billings' contact. So you can see who made those changes, when they happened. So that gives you a comprehensive look at what's happening in your management. Let's go to people now. Let's go to the top left, underneath home. Let's talk about the people section, starting with an overview. So overview gives you basic buttons to go to some of the most common people groupings like families and households, groups and teams, all contacts. That's just going to go to our contacts tab, which we'll see in just a second. Contact lists. These are going to be lists of people, really useful for mail outs or just groupings of people that you need to keep tabs on or communicate with. Households shows you households. Detail sheets, really important. It's above import because you want to think about detail sheets before you get into imports. Your detail sheets, these are going to be custom details that are not included out of the box with your church management. So for example, if you have an import, you'll do a CSV file. If some of those details aren't included in church management, like a membership status column, or whether someone's been baptized or not, you'll want to create those detail sheets in this tab before you get to your import so that we can appropriately map your custom details to the import of your CSV. So details are there. We'll import and then you can merge contacts at the bottom. Let's get into contacts. Let's see what the people are going to look like once we do an import. And if I load into my contacts, I've got all some basic names, some age information. I can just click on any of these to look at further details. So for example, here's Bill. I can click on Bill, and I'm brought to a page where I see Bill's basic contact info. You'll see then on the left-hand side, I have some actions I can take with Bill, like send him an email, a text message, or I can give him a call. Maybe I want to add a note. I had coffee with Bill and just maybe a pastoral note to reference some of my conversation with him. I can add a note there. And if I scroll down, you'll see that there's some more tabs about Bill, some details like an activity timeline, so some of his recent interactions possibly, or the household information, groups and teams. And as you move towards the bottom of these tabs, we come back to the important point of detail sheets. You'll see that the detail sheets that you'll create in detail sheets will appear as tabs represented on the left-hand side towards the bottom. So for example, this membership status tab, this is actually a detail sheet that I created so that I can have membership information about Bill. So I can just click on membership now. I can say he is and when he became a member. Moving from here, let's get back to the contacts section. I'll save Bill's info here. And we're going to go back to contacts because let's say I want to narrow down who I'm seeing on this page. I want to find certain people. So I can go to the top right and let's say I search for Luke. I've got this field here to search for people or certain details. And if I search that, we can see there's Luke, Mr. Skywalker himself, and then I could click on his details. Another way about going about this is going to the filter section on the top right. Really useful when we want to find a grouping of people based off of certain details. So going back, I have all my contacts here. Let's go to filters, and now I can add conditions to my search. So I'll go add condition, and let's say I want my condition to be based off of age, and I want to search for an age that is greater than 23. I'll hit apply filters at the bottom right, and now the filters will narrow down my contacts to just show anyone above the age of 23. Now that I have this, I can select everyone on the left-hand side. So let's say I go to the check mark here, select all 8 items. And now you'll see I can do batch actions with this group of people. And this could be based off of other filters or selecting other people that I see in contacts. Actions like adding them to a group or doing a mail out of these people. I could send an update request so I get their details. This is a really useful menu on the right-hand side because you'll have some actions to do based off of what you select. I'm going to deselect this group in the meantime. So I'm going to go deselect 8 contacts. We're back to this. And you'll see even if I just go to one person like Bill and I go to the right-hand side with the 3 dots, I'm going to get this same action window, but it's just going to be for Bill's information. So I could add Bill to a household or add him to a mail out from here. Now that we've covered people, let's now move to volunteers. So we're going to go to volunteers, and we've got 4 items in this menu. First is teams. So teams, these are going to be your volunteers, your worship team, your greeting team, your connect team. Fill in the blank for you. You'll go to this page, you'll create teams in the top right, and they'll populate here. Now within the team, I could click on it, and I could go to the details of this team. For example, the members that are involved. I added Bill and Jane, but I could manually search for my contact list to add people to this team. And then I could also add positions. So these could include positions in a band, or maybe a certain door on a Sunday to greet at. So appropriately add members and positions to create your teams. Let's go to plans now. Plans are going to be your services. So the flow of a service, when someone comes up, what songs are happening. You'll create plans here, and then from there, you can assign people on your teams. Capabilities. These are skills that you can create. You can create custom skills, like a drummer, for example, and I could then attach this capability to a contact. It becomes really helpful when, for example, maybe I have a relationship and a connection with someone who I know is a great drummer, but another admin on my team doesn't have that connection. Well, I can add a capability like the drummer capability, attach it to Bill's contact, for example, and now across the church management platform, for those who are looking for drummers as admins, I can just search for this capability to find Bill. So very useful. Find capabilities that are going to make sense, and then you can attach them to contacts. Last, songs. Songs, this is going to be your songs for Sundays or for services. You'll add songs. You can connect CCLI, which is commonly used for song select, and then that could be a part of your plans for services. Now that we've covered volunteers, let's move up to events. In events, we'll go to overview here, and we'll see just a perspective, bird's eye view of the events in my church management. A couple categories here, like I created some Sunday school services, 2nd, 3rd grade. Event tracks. These are repeatable events, which is also a main menu item on the left-hand side. So this goes to my repeatable events, and these could be anything from 2nd grade classes as well, that happens on a weekly basis, but also Sunday school services, Sunday services. Anything that is happening on a weekly basis is a great example of an event track. Let's go to all events though. That's where I want to start. It's also a main menu item here. I'll click on all events, and I'm brought to a list of the events that I had just seen in my overview. I can filter these. I can do some of the same adjustments and searching that I had done in contacts just by going to keywords or filters. But the most helpful view that I can most often use this events section is as a multi-planner view. So let's go to this list option here where I'm going to click on multi-planner as the option of my viewing. And from here, I can see the events, but I can see the plans associated to those events, as well as some of the volunteers that I need to assign to that event. So this gets back to the volunteer management. By adding teams, assignments, positions, and creating plans, I can now come to my multi-planner view, and I could add a plan to, let's say, this example Sunday. I'll get a list of my plans. Maybe I created some defaults or past. Click on example here. My plan is added. I can make some in-event adjustments, maybe specific to this Sunday. Save. And now I have the plan present. Same thing goes for my volunteers. So I have a band. Let's just say it's singing. I've got one singer for this Sunday. I'm going to add a band, add some volunteers to this event. And in this case, I just need a singer. And I could click on this and assign someone to be volunteering for this Sunday. So use the multi-planner. Really helpful for looking at several days and making volunteer assignments as well as plans. The last section in events are ticketing. This would be related if you have any ticketing to an event, a conference. You could create tickets here and then have people use that as a way to get into the event. Let's move from events down to forms. Forms, first button here in the main menu. It's going to take me to a page where I'll see all the forms related to my church management. And out of the box, everyone will see Kids Church Registration Form. This is a great template to start. You can use it for your Kids Church registration, or my encouragement is to duplicate this form so that you have a form to work with to create others like a Connect card or a prayer request. So we can go to the right-hand side. We have our action menu. And from here, I can duplicate this form, or I could go to the form and actually edit the fields for when people go through it. When people do and they submit a form, I can go to the left-hand side, go to Form Submissions, and I can see the form submissions on this page. I can also filter it by what form someone went through by going to Filters, or I can use my keyword search. Now from this point, we have talked about several main menu items, like people, events, volunteers, and forms. But check-in remains the last one to go over because check-in stations require many of the items we've already gone over. For example, we have now a form present for us to plug into a check-in station so that if someone's new to the ministry, they can use this Kids Church registration form to input their new information. We also, for all check-in stations, need events, because check-in stations are checking a person into an event that's within your events menu. Let's go to check-ins now. We'll just go to overview. And to prove my point, we've got events listed at the bottom just to show you some of today's events as well as upcoming events that people could be checking into. We'll then go to all check-ins. I can see an overview of all the check-ins that have happened recently within my ministry, who did so, how they did so, and when. And then we get to the check-in stations themselves. We'll click on stations, and we have a test app check-in. We'll just use this one here. You can always check in, create a new check-in station. If I click on the station, I'm brought to some of the basic details and info about this station. For example, I can see that I've enabled name tag printing for this station, and I have selected a registration form that's available so that if someone hasn't been to the ministry, first time Sunday service, they can enter appropriate details that will fill the database upon entry. If you'd want to change this out, we can go to the right-hand side. We can hit the three dots. Let's deselect this test form we've done, and then we'll search and find another form to use. So we'll search Kids Check-in because we had another form that's just, again, default, out of the box with church management. We'll select this one. And now this is my new form to those who are new to the church. Back to the check-in station menu. I can see here's the check-in station we were just looking at, and right below is an option to view this check-in in a browser. So let's take a look and preview. The station's first going to ask me what event do I want this station to be checking people into. Check-in stations can only check in people to events that are happening right now. So for example, this test check-in event that I had created in my events, I can check people into. So we'll go to test check-in, and I'll search for myself. Let's say I'm a parent pulling up to a classroom. Type my name, or I could type any of my kids. There I am. And I've already checked in Leia. She was in a classroom down the hall, but I'll check in Luke to this classroom. So I'll click on Luke and I'll check in. If there are any specific groups that Luke is a part of related to this event, maybe it's a certain volunteer team or another group that you can specify, you could always check them into specific groups. But I'll do the attendance test group here. Click on continue. It's going to ask me for a phone number just to confirm for emergency purposes. I can then enter a PIN. Maybe I have a specific PIN that I set up in my first Sunday or service, and let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4. You can set this up if you'd like. You can have this be a part of the check-in process or not. But for security reasons, I'll put mine in. And now I have checked in Luke. I could also go back when I'm back to this classroom, type in my name, go back to my kids here, and check them out. When I do so, it's going to ask me for my PIN. I'll plug that back in, and they're officially checked out. Concluding our overview, communication and library. Just quickly, these two areas are a summary of several sections in your church management. For example, contact lists here are also in people, you can see at the very top, as well as the other items in your communication like mail-outs, text messaging. These are actions that you could take on individual or groups, contacts in people. We put it into one category just for ease, and the same goes for library, where you can see a summary of some of your songs, which are also listed in volunteers, or some of the files or images that you've collected and placed into your library. Well, this concludes the church management overview. We've talked about what are the most important features you can jump into, as well as where you can find them in your dashboard. My hope is that this video has prompted questions now about how. How do I get started then? How do I add forms or change detail sheets? How do I do an import? These questions from the video are best going to be met in the Subsplash Knowledge Center. We have articles based off of these important features. So follow the steps, watch the videos, and get into the next feature that is going to be important for your ministry moving forward. And as always, if you have any questions, we have a support team here to help. On behalf of Subsplash, thanks so much for watching.